Good evening everyone, and welcome to this evening's meeting of Planning and Highways Committee, today the 19th of September. Just some housekeeping rules to run through. Please be aware that the Council is video recording this meeting and this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. I would just like to highlight some key points of the meeting format. Please can I ask everyone to have their phones turned off or set to silent. The fire exits are via the doors out of the chambers and down the external fire escape stairs or via the main entrance that you enter the building through. In the event of a fire, the lift should not be used. The assembly point is outside the Royal Mail Parcel Office in West Street. Please remain seated unless you are invited to speak or need to take a comfort break. The toilet facilities are out on the corridor you entered through. Members of the public are invited to participate in the meeting with key points as follows. Public participation is limited to a maximum of 4 minutes per person and must be relating to an item of business on the agenda. As Chair, I will interject if needed to enforce this. Those looking to speak specifically about planning or tree works applications on the agenda, you will be invited to speak immediately before the committee considers that application. For those looking to speak on non-planning application business, you will be invited to speak during the public participation agenda item. Please raise your hand to show you wish to speak and I will invite you to speak. If you are comfortable standing, please do so to ensure you can be heard across the room. You do not need to state your name when you start speaking if you do not wish to, but we ask that you clearly state which agenda item you are speaking about. I would ask that participants looking to leave the meeting wait until the end of an agenda item to limit distractions for other participants. Members of the public looking to leave the building will need to be escorted out by a council officer. If the meeting goes into confidential session, a short 2-minute break will be held to allow members of the public to leave. To all present, please remember to show respect to others in the meeting and avoid interrupting where possible to enable others to follow the meeting. If any councillor feels concerned about any aspect of the meeting or discussion, please clearly state point of order. I will then gesture for you to elaborate. If anyone present is felt to be behaving unacceptably, they can be ejected from the meeting by resolution. Thank you for listening. On behalf of the Council, I'd like to thank everyone attending this Town Council meeting. Thank you. Right, so start with the agenda item 1, apologies for absence. And I think we've got everybody's here. Great. Agenda item 2, disclosure of interest. To deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosable pecuniary interests and interests other peculiar interests as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. No. Item 3, public participation. To deal with any questions or brief representations from members of the public in accordance with the relevant legislation and Seaford Town Council policy. In accordance with Town Council policy, members of the public wishing to speak on individual planning applications may do so immediately before each planning application. Yes.
Hello, I'd like to speak on agenda item 4, please. And that's the NPPF consultation. I'm concerned with the proposal to remove the requirement for 10% affordable housing and the 25% starter homes in questions 48 and 49. I appreciate that the consultation document states that local areas are best placed to decide the right mix of affordable housing for their communities, including a mix of affordable homes for ownership and rent. However, as there is no minimum requirement set for affordable homes, starter homes or rented accommodation, the power is with the developer, not the local authority. Local planning authorities are being required to find a greatly increased number of dwellings. If they fail to do so, like Lewis, they'll be placed in special measures. The planning authority will not have the power to reject a planning application due to a lack of affordable housing or social rent, as it will not be a requirement. And unless they're able to meet their 5-year housing needs, the inspector will overturn a refusal on appeal. Moreover, even when there has been a requirement to provide affordable homes, Lewis District Council has still struggled to force developers to provide the appropriate number of such homes. For example, the development of the old Beachcomber pub, where despite a legal agreement for affordable homes to be provided, none were forthcoming. There's also the pending planning application in Newhaven recommended for approval, which will create 126 dwellings, none of which are affordable. Then we move on to the Conclub development, where Seaford Town Council expressed concern over the size of contribution because it's too small for the affordable housing, but you're ignored. As we know, developers are currently provided with an escape clause such that they can avoid or reduce the provision of affordable homes where they can demonstrate that it's not financially viable for them. So rather than removing the requirement, it should at least be retained and possibly strengthened. An expectation for a developer to provide affordable homes is probably nothing more than wishful thinking. Moving on to question 8, it's worrying that the Council are proposing to agree to the removal of paragraph 77 of the current NPPF. This will mean that if there's been a previous oversupply of housing, you will not be able to offset this against further supply. This seems counterintuitive. There's only a finite amount of land available in Seaford, which is surrounded by the National Park on 3 sides and the sea on the other. Don't forget the Newlands development provided a windfall of 184 dwellings, which made no contribution to the housing supply figures due to such rules. And finally, question 17. To simply create a target to increase the number of dwellings in an area to deal with affordability doesn't necessarily deal with the demand for affordable housing. Consideration needs to be given to the type of housing to be developed, rather than a sweeping overall target which this proposal will create. Hence, you will get more and more executive homes and no affordable homes for the youngsters in our town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, so that leads us on to agenda item 4 on page 6. To present the committee with a draft response to the consultation on proposed reforms to the National Planning Policy Framework and other changes to the planning system. It's nice to welcome Jeff, who's helped us out on this one.
Thank you. If I could just, nice to be back. If I could just do a short introduction. You've had the report. It's quite a lengthy report, so I don't propose to add too much to it. It's got sort of suggested responses to the questions. Some of the questions are more relevant than others. Some have no real relevance at all. Some are, like the Greenbelt questions, may be of general interest but not specific relevance to this area. But obviously the housing provisions, which the resident has referred to, will be the most relevant and of direct interest. I've made some suggested responses, but I'd emphasise that just as with Steve Tilbury's initial report to the Association of Local Councils in the county, East and West Sussex, the response really is for each individual authority, town council, parish council, to make. It's your response. I'm just acting as Steve Tilbury was for the county associations, acting as advisor and guide as to what might be relevant and what might not be relevant. it's not an open consultation on government policy. It's only a consultation limited to the amendments which have been made by the new government following the initial speech early on in this Parliament by the Deputy Prime Minister, mainly to do with housing, obviously. So it's geared really to the amendments that have been made or suggested by the new government to the final version of the framework, which was last amended in December 2023, in the final year of the previous government. There's been about 6, 7, 8 different versions of the framework since it was introduced in 2012. It hasn't been true, but there have been significant amendments made all the way through. So, as I say, it's not open house on government policy for town and parish councils, district councils to respond to. It's purely on the suggested amendments. And obviously I anticipate there'll be some questions, so it's probably best if I stop there and just agree to respond to any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, so open to the committee. Has anybody got any questions or they'd like to add to the questionnaire? Councillor Buchanan?
Thank you, Chair. I was trying to find in this document where one might be able to strengthen up the requirements for consideration of infrastructure, where one might be increasing population and all the rest of it. And infrastructure could be public transport, local shops, access to healthcare, water drainage, green power supplies, roads, cycle paths, those kind of things, because there's no specific definition of infrastructure. There was a couple of the questions where question 14, which is actually a request to suggest other things that one might add in. There are other areas, so question 13 talks about a test for soundness. I wasn't quite sure what that means, but it sounds as if that's a 5-year plan for baby build. And it's not that clear. And there's a question 6, which is to do with sustainable development, and I don't think that's specifically related to infrastructure. I'm told that in the original document, on paragraph 74, there is reference, kind of, I would describe it as obliquely, to infrastructure issues. So I would like to suggest that we might be able to add something into this question 14, which is, do you have any other suggestions relating to the proposals in this chapter? And we might add something to help highlight the infrastructure issues that don't seem to be, I won't say they're not addressed, but they're not that clearly, there's no motivation really to go and find those clauses. And even those clauses, I think, are not quite as solid as one might like them to be. My esteemed colleague on my left-hand side had some very good words, but it was along the lines of, what was I wanted to say? Lost my piece of paper now. But yeah, there should be more consideration given to how the issues of infrastructure can be addressed and assessed in conjunction with the many applications for additional house building or other, any building.
I think main problem is the health service.
And that's one of the I mean, maybe we could even list out some of the issues that we might consider being related to infrastructure as well. Which, I mean, my note here is public transport, local shops, so you don't have to get into your car to go and buy stuff. Access to healthcare, water drainage, green power supplies, roads, cycle paths, and I'm sure there's others as well, etc.
Okay. You want to respond to
Yes,
that?
well,
Yeah.
obviously the issue of infrastructure is a great concern. I mean, when we've had controversial developments and appeals locally over the last few years, the majority of letters of objection have been that the local health services can't take, are already at sort of a critical point and can't take any additional patients without services being drastically affected. That's connecting that with what I said earlier. It's not strictly speaking a subject for this consultation because there, as far as I am aware, there's no reference in the proposed amendments to infrastructure requirements. Having said that, it is such a general concern that it wouldn't do any harm if the committee agreed to express that concern in this response to the government and to ask for some sort of strengthening of the requirement for infrastructure for large developments. What the current version of the policy framework says is that for large developments of new homes, such as new settlements or significant extensions to existing villages and towns, they should be well located and designed and supported by the necessary infrastructure and facilities, including a genuine choice of transport modes. So, working with the support of their communities and other authorities, if appropriate, strategic policy-making authorities should identify suitable locations, etc., etc. So, there's a reference to it there, but it's probably not as strong as it should be, because it's sometimes services are at such a critical point that it doesn't really have to be that large a development to place unacceptable pressure on the services because they're already so stretched by the existing population. So if you want to make that point, although strictly speaking it's not covered by the questions because it's not the subject of any amendment, if you want to make that point, then I will be able to find the necessary wording, if you ask me to strengthen that, if you like, refer to that paragraph. I'll find a way of working that into one of the responses to the questions because it's broad enough to be able, for me to be able to do that. The references to residential developments, etc., in the first part of the questionnaire. So yes, I mean, it's not, as I say, it's not strictly covered by the consultation, but I'm aware of the concern residents and members about it. So if you want me to do that, I will be able to put something appropriate as a response to the general questions in the early part of the questionnaire relating to residential development, housing targets, etc., etc. I'm aware on another matter that you might want me to make some comments on the residents' points. If you want me to do that a bit later, after members have had their say.
But on the infrastructure, does the members want that added, or for Jeff to include that? And because I think it has been our main concern over the years, and it doesn't hurt not to put it in. So Councillor Bourne
Yeah, thank
you.
first.
That was, I concentrated on the health infrastructure, GPs and health, rather than obviously all the other bits. And I'm looking at question 106, the very last question, that you could, because there would be big impacts to people, our local residents, with the GPs. So
And
I,
sort of the sweeping up question at the end.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I think to put the health infrastructure, and I say that actually it needs a lot more weight put on it when it comes to planning, whether they're small or large developments in, and it then depends on which town or village you're in across the whole country as well, but especially for Seaford.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Law.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've got two points to make. First of all, Jeff, have we got, is there a guillotine on a timescale when this has got to be returned, or is it open-ended
Tuesday the 24th
of
September.
this one? Okay, that's the first one. The second one, and I've got a bit of a beaming bonnet space, because I fought tooth and nail to get a new health centre hub built in this town. And it's going back 4 years ago. It's going to be new, six-bedroom, I'm a hotel gym, aren't I? Six-bed big cottage hospital built in Seaford, which both the doctor's surgeries were fully in support of, along with refurbishing the sports centre with a new cafe stroke rehabilitation centre. I fought tooth and nail for that, and we had 5,000 objections from people in Seaford. So therefore, the question says itself, well, if the people in Seaford didn't want it, why are they now saying, well, we do need one? So what I'm asking for you, Chair, if Jeff can say, well, in actual fact, there was an application submitted about, must be four, possibly 5 years ago, for a new health centre hub in Seaford to be built. So why can't that be resurrected? Because the plans were drawn up, both doctors' surgery in full agreement for it. It had a full midwifery and nurses on call with the drive round.
Can I interrupt you,
Yeah.
Councillor? We really want to keep to
Well,
questions.
what I'm saying is every saying there's no health centre with no health provision. So what I'm saying is, why don't we rewrite the plan for a new health hub in Seaford? That's what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Buchanan, did you want to come back?
I
saw
need
your
to
hand
say
up.
that what my colleague on my left was saying is I would agree with, and other councillors' comments related to infrastructure and health services. I think we should have some words placed into this reply to strengthen, it's the government that, forget Seaford in a way, it's the government that provides the direction of these things, and this could be the place to do it.
Thank you. Councillor Hunter.
Thank you, Chair. I think when we start talking about infrastructure, I agree with Councillor Law, but then we got the opposition of people don't want the infrastructure if it's right by their homes or whatever. So you've got that issue, you've got to sort of balance as well. That's always part of the argument. And I think once you start talking about infrastructure, I think you've got to do all the infrastructure as well. So that not just what Councillor Bourne said, the roads, the other networks, everything that goes with it. So if you limit it just to a couple of infrastructure items, it's a bit narrow. So I think the catch-all conversation could say the wider aspects. I mean, 85/9 can be a bit of a disaster in certain times. There's some infrastructure there needs to be improved if you're going to be extra housing. So I think you've got the extra bit needs to be called in. But we're going into the detail of this conversation tonight's probably not appropriate.
No, yeah, another time.
When we got there,
Just-
when we need to on certain times.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure what Councillor Law said, it will get really looked at. It's on the agenda there. You're only going to look on the media, and it's out and about. So.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Olivia
I
Hammond.
was just going to add to the thing about the reason somebody complained about it was purely because they felt the location was wrong. It wasn't that they didn't want a health hub, it's that the fact it was in, they didn't feel where it was being suggested to be was the right place, they wanted it more in the town. So it would then support not just the health hub, it would support the local shops. So the theory was, this is what if I recall, if they were going to the doctors, they then go to the local shops at the same time, which is why people wanted it in the town rather than where it was being suggested to be in the town's leisure centre.
But we are digressing.
No, I know,
on
but I
this.
just wanted to
Yeah, just
clarify
Yeah, okay.
my recollection.
So can we just stick to the questions, and if we, in any of the, you want to add, or Councillor Richard?
I know we've listened to the residents as well, but it's interesting about the local, the targets. In a lot of ways, you could argue the local planning authority, in this case the City Council, should do the targets and not have the national side, which is what we've done it as. Because at the moment targets aren't being met anyway, aren't they, in lots of places, and you could argue that the criteria should be down to the local planning authority to come up with some option. Obviously in collaboration with national government, as opposed to having a set amount. And I think we have talked about set targets, about quotas, haven't we, when the various plans come out, we look at call for sites and everything, but surely the call for sites could be ongoing, shouldn't it? Because why do they have to wait for certain times for call for sites? Surely that should be an ongoing situation. And like a really, ongoing, as opposed to always waiting every 4 or 5 years when the various plans get updated. So it's just a suggestion. I don't know if that's, I think it is incorporated in that, isn't it? The ongoing call for sites and for whoever. But I don't like the idea, because obviously like Newlands didn't meet our target, didn't go on those districts.
No.
But it's obviously on someone's list, that there's 185 homes, whatever it is. So it's either on another list, but could that be incorporated as officially as part of the town in one way or other? So there's several things that we've talked about. I think they're sort of captured in there anyway. And I suppose it comes down to flexibility, which is what the planning with the exact targets is all about, isn't it really?
Thank you, Councillor Van Den. Anybody else? Councillor Foreman?
Yeah, just on a couple of other points. So I really agree with question 55 about the looked after children. This is only for small amounts of looked after children. It's not going to be large homes or anything, so fully supportive of that. Question 59, just to extend that a bit, which is about the beauty and beautiful aspect in the policy.
Well, thank you.
We obviously have got our own design guidelines, and they've worked really well with the kind of development we want in each area. And if all neighbourhood plans, local plans actually had these design guidelines in, right, they wouldn't be as ambiguous of what each town would want. So can we just add that the design guidelines just to strengthen that?
Yeah. I mean the advantage of having design guidelines for every town and village.
Yeah.
Well, see, whether they've got a neighbourhood plan or not, it's always possible to have a design guide. East Dean, for example, had a design guide 5 years before it thought about having a neighbourhood plan. Obviously, it's going to be incorporated in the neighbourhood plan. So, yeah, design guides are usually the easiest to, much easier than a neighbourhood plan to achieve. But, as I think we found out when our design guidelines was approved, they are the most useful tool to have, because they are referred to almost every meeting. I recall over the 7 years I was here, when the design guidelines came in, they helped a lot in our deciding extensions, etc., and they were supported by Lewis District Council because they were seen as part of the local plan. So I think the usefulness of design guidelines can't be exaggerated, and yes, the answer should cover that. So I'll work that into the answer before the consultation goes on.
Thank you.
Anybody else? do you want to?
Yeah, do you want to comment on
Yeah.
the residents? Well, you know, when you finish,
Yeah.
I've got some comments on the residents' points.
Okay. Councillor Buchanan?
Thank you, Chair. Question 79. What, in your view, is the current state of technological readiness and availability of tools for accurate carbon counting in plan making and planning decisions? What are the challenges to increasing its use? I'm not sure what the challenges are, but at the moment there's no specific, to my understanding, assessment of carbon footprints and things like that with any planning applications. So I was going to suggest something along the lines of NSIP to include requirement for effective tools for carbon impact assessments to help decision making. Or words to that effect.
Carry on.
Thank you, Chair. I think I've got another one as well. Question 78. In what specific deliverable way could national planning policy do more to address climate change mitigation and adaptation? We had a quick just chat before the meeting here, but I was not clear whether this national planning policy is related just to new builds or to existing housing stock. So if it's also can include existing housing stock, then I would have something along the lines of further support to upgrading of existing housing stock to lower carbon footprint, or words to that effect.
Councillor Bourne?
Thank you. Can I just extend on that as well?
Please.
Because we could be more specific, as rather than just look at, is actually that they should be including certain things like, may not even be solar panels, but water, grey water usage or anything like that. And these things, I think there's a lot of times that they're not included in, especially new builds. It's harder with retrospective change, but if they're actually making quite big changes to and putting big extensions on, it's probably easier for them that to be added. But I think it does definitely need to be more specific.
Water holes.
Oh, so that's the one.
So Chair, if I just may have a quick reply to that.
Yeah.
I think in my mind this was specifically for the existing housing stock. I mean, you're right that maybe the current building regs aren't that strong in terms of requiring things like that. But this would be more to the point for existing housing stock for the government to be finding ways to help support the upgrading of infrastructure, getting VAT on certain aspects of insulation, whatever, to actually help mobilise the householders to want to do these things. So again, further support for upgrading of existing infrastructure. And I could go into more detail, I imagine, but that was just a broader kind of thought process there.
I know there's no VAT on solar panels. They did take that off a couple of years ago.
I think if you are upgrading your house and putting insulation around, I think the specific purchase of the insulation is VAT free, and all the other things that go in order to make that insulation fit into the house is not VAT free. And I'm sure I could find other examples of where it just does cost more to do these things, and it's pretty, it would put some people off being able to do it.
Because I know I had solar panels put on my roof, and I went shy of it because it included VAT, and then when it was re-looked again, the government had taken the VAT charges off, and that made a massive difference. Yeah. So I hence went forward with the project. Right, councillor Hunman.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, regarding the interesting what Councillor Buchanan was saying about sort of trying to get every household with some sort of quota of where they are with the, you know, how energy efficient they are and everything. If you remember going back, not that long ago, maybe 20 years ago, even less than that, when you couldn't sell your house unless you had energy quota, but you had a sort of table, didn't you? There was you had people going around your house doing, when they did the normal surveys, and you had the energy quota came up from that. So there's a lot of information about people's houses already about how they are, but the only difference is I can see on one level who basically should be looking after the quotas to do with the state of people's homes and how efficient they are in an energy and carbon footprint, and you know, the best insulation going, the best heat pumps when need be. So there is a certain amount of information out there, but of course if someone even look like when we go on to do like you know, someone's extension, well, that's going to, even a minor extension, even that's going to affect what might happen to a house. But it's keeping them. It's good to get some schemes in place, but then they always have to be maintained and updated. So I like the principle of doing that side of things, but I don't know if this is outside the scope of this particular exercise. If you see what I mean.
Well, if the committee agrees, I can work into the responses some of the points that have been raised by Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Horn, about specific green infrastructure measures like water harvesting, etc. You know, to sort of beef up the answers to questions 78 and 79. There's no harm in that. If the committee agree, then I'll do that.
All agreeable to that? Yeah. Okay. Right. Do you want to go on what then the public?
Thanks. Just the points that were made by a resident. Firstly, viability. I think viability has to be included in the framework because obviously it's an important factor in developments that you've got to you've got to give the developer some incentive. The trouble is with viability, in the last few years, the test in the government's policies, in policy guidance, has worked against the provision of almost any affordable housing in the schemes that have been agreed on appeal. Except even in the Newlands case, the 40% requirement in the local plan came out after the viability test as just 8% or 14 units, and we negotiated with Bellways. Negotiated with Bellways an increase in that based on a modification to the plans to enable them to have new build blocks of apartments rather than converting the old schoolhouse, which would have been a far more expensive and problematical scheme. And so they were able in the end to offer 25% affordable housing, or I think it was 46 units. So in a way that was a success, even though it was only 25%. Because of the way the viability test is set out by the government, the land value is a sort of a formula based on the land values, the cost of development, professional costs, cost of materials, etc., etc., and you put it all into a sausage machine, the workings of which are known only to specialist accountants, and out comes a figure at the end, and that usually favours the developers. And if local authorities had more resources, they could challenge the answers that come out from the developers' accountants, but it's very difficult in some cases to actually challenge them, and the developers' conclusions have to be accepted. But there is some mention of it in the provisions about, there's some reference to benchmark land values and possible amendments to the viability test in the questions. So if the committee wants to adopt the residents' concerns about viability, then we could, when it mentions about adjustments to benchmark land values, which is a very technical point, again, it's more of a technical accountancy point, but it does touch, the questions do touch on viability. So if you want me to add concerns about the effect of the viability test on the provision of affordable housing and the fact that it's made the provision of affordable housing in recent years, well, it's reduced it substantially, and concerns about that, then I can add that. The resident also concerned about about taking away percentages for housing, affordable housing requirements. I don't think that's a problem because generally this government will be seeking more affordable housing. In fact, for the grey belt areas, which got quite a bit of publicity after the speech in Parliament, this idea of relaxing some of the restrictions on green belt development to allow or to assume that brownfield sites within the green belt should be developed. And there, one of the rules that the government's laying down is that if brownfield sites in the green belt are to be developed for residential development, there should be 50% affordable housing, which shows the way that the government are going as far as increasing provision of affordable housing is concerned. And a lot of the experts or the consultants are saying, well, it means that this development on the grey belt is almost dead before it starts because developers will not develop land where there's a requirement for 50% affordable housing because it simply won't be viable. I mean, that's something that might be dealt with, over the next few years. There might be some amendments to that rule, but that's the way the government is thinking. It's generally its thinking is to increase the provision of affordable housing across the board, and especially provision of affordable housing in areas of the green belt that are released for residential development, the so-called grey belt. So, but as I say, we could meet the concerns of the residents if the committee agree with those concerns by suggesting that the viability test, which has in recent years worked to almost reduce the provision of affordable housing in some areas like Lewis District to nothing because of land values, etc. The viability test should be adjusted, and that means, well, as I say, it mentions about benchmark land values. That's a technicality which I haven't been able to go into, but certainly generally we can say that the viability test needs to be adjusted in areas where the value of land is high in order to require developers to provide a worthwhile percentage of affordable housing. And I think the other point that the resident made was well, the question about carrying over excess provision. I don't really think that's relevant to us because Lewis have never had an excess provision. It's a pie in the sky issue really. Lewis is never going to be able to reach the targets that are imposed on it by the standard method. And I think the comments that I've suggested in the early part of the questionnaire about the problems faced by districts like Lewis, where a large percentage of the land is specially designated and it has highway infrastructure problems, etc., deals with that sort of concern. I don't really think that it's really a technicality, this business about carrying, whether you can carry over excess provision, because it's never going to happen in this area. So, as I say, it's my view on that. I think that's, hopefully I've covered. Oh, and the special measures. Just to say that special measures were mentioned. Lewis were put into special measures not because it didn't reach its targets, but because it was too slow in dealing with major applications. So special measures have nothing to do with failure to reach its housing targets. It's only to help developers get their major applications through quicker by allowing them to apply straight to the planning inspector in Bristol. So that's not relevant really to anything to do with this consultation.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Are members happy for the residents' concerns to be enhanced in our responses? So if there's no further questions, we go back to your recommendations. To consider and agree Seaford Town Council's response to the Government's consultation on the proposed reforms to the National Planning Policy Framework and other changes to the planning system as with the added points we have discussed this evening.
Yeah. I've got details of all those. I won't go through them because I've got a list. I'll just obviously send them to Izzy to be minuted, but I've got a complete list of them. Point that was raised by Councillor Vaughan and Councillor Buchanan and the residents.
So can I have a proposal?
That's my question, Chair. So it says Appendix A is going to be amended as such, and some of the amendments within those questions, and part of the bit about the infrastructure is going to be added. It's always like a separate point in a way, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I could go through them now, but I've got a complete
I'll trust you, don't I?
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. But I'll make sure that they're put through to Izzy so they're actually listed in the minutes, because we need to sort of cover each one before, for the sake of the minutes anyway.
So can I have a proposer? Thank you, Councillor Foreman, and a seconder, Councillor Buchanan, and can I have a show of hands, please? And that's unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you, Jeff, once again for consulting.
I can get away early for one.
Yeah. You are welcome to stay.
Truly you are.
There's something
There
recognised.
might be some football on. Disrespect.
Add your time.
Thank you very much for coming and your input.
Yes, very good, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
We'll see you in a few months, I'm sure, for the next one.
Anything to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jeff, thanks.
We don't you from?
I hope they,
Oh, it's tendonitis in the arm. Physio is now suggested by way of,
You're doing too much hard work, you are.
huh?
You're doing too much hard work. You need a job in the office.
You have to do a mixture of both. Maybe it's an issue. Yeah. Anyone thinks horticulture is lovely and fluffy.
No, it's not.
Has never
It's
actually
graft.
worked in it. It's hard work.
It's graft, I know.
Yeah, makes us giggle when people think, oh, I thought this was
If I had a few daffy balls here, no, you don't.
that bit, living takes a massive toll on the body.
That's all the boys who work for me, but for Chaffers. You get to about 40 tonight. Absolutely, completely into shock.
Well, I did my back in quite a few years ago now, where it's like gung ho, I'm not going to be defeated, and then of course,
But your body can't recover. The older you get, you
you know,
just
it
can't
just
recover, you know.
doesn't like,
No.
back sports, arm sports, all sorts.
There's some boys who get Chaffers, it gets too big to where it cleanses. They can't use a chainsaw, white finger, they can't drive this, they've got vibrating, eerie problems, you know. I think, God almighty, not nice to have a few trees, isn't it? But it's not.
No.
Climb up and down things.
Go straight through now, can't we?
I say, shot to pieces, I feel sorry for them.
Lots of these as well. Quite a nice array of,
Yeah.
It's been 9 years ago, now it's built the railways, and to deep cuttings out by hand every single day of the week.
something like that.
And to transport it, and then you cut and you fill the valley. So you make sure the cut fill the valley so you don't bring spawn in. And you have to do it day in, with a shovel.
Leave them in just this week.
I don't know any difference, eh?
No one's
Thank you.
Oh, God, no set of boots,
Okay. Right, moving on to agenda item 5, planning applications. Applications received week commencing the 19th of August. LW/24/0504, 66 Cookmere Road. Single storey, first floor, rear extension over existing flat roof, ground floor extension and alterations to fenestration. Who would like to lead on this one? Councillor Bournemouth.
Yeah, the chair. It's all at the back of the property. It's nothing major. It's got a large garden too, and it's not overlooking the residents. And I'm quite happy to support it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was just going to say there wasn't actually, I just put a comment there, not much detail. There wasn't much extra information, it was just that's it, and done.
And it's sort of set back from the neighbouring properties as well.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
I'll second
Thank
Councillor
you,
Bourne.
Councillor Lee. Any other comments? And can I have a show of hands of supporting this application? It's unanimous. LW/24/0544, 4 Church Street. Addition of shower space to the ground floor bathroom, addition of a kitchen door, ensuite WC on the first floor and making good joists and plasterboard in the basement. You can actually leave with this one. Councillor London?
Thank you, Chair. I think basement issues will anything to do with water's always going to have issues in a way. But as it's now holiday, I think we can see what they're going to make it good down there. So I'd support it.
Thank you. Councillor Bournemouth?
Thank you, Chair. I'm still not happy that we're losing a property that's going to a holiday let, but I can't see how we can get to anything from the application now, because obviously it's been accepted, so I'll second.
Thank you. Any other comments? And can I have a show of hands for supporting this application? That's unanimous. LW/24/0548, Rodnell House, Rodnell Road, new outbuilding. Councillor Hunman?
Yeah, there was a couple of things I was a bit concerned with. Was the closest to Mapledown on the neighbouring property. I thought that was good. It goes right to the boundary. I wasn't really that keen on it. Mapledown's just down to the south of that. I was a little bit concerned why the outbuilding wasn't close to the house, their house really. That's what I couldn't really quite understand.
It's quite a distance from the...
No, Mapledown's just down to the...
Yeah.
It's the closest to Mapledown, obviously. Where's Mapledown?
Is that it, you mean?
That's the house, isn't it? Yeah, that was my concern.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That is definitely the house, isn't it? Of Mapledown. I was trying to... If you look on the other map...
This one.
Yeah, there's Mapledown is on to... Unless that's not, you see, is that building?
That looks like an outbuilding.
Yeah.
That was my concern. And also the couple other bits, in the sense of, it doesn't really, I know it said it wasn't, I think we're going to explicitly say it's not going to be, have a bathroom and
That's right.
bedroom,
It's
so
only
it
got
was a little bit,
electricity.
It's only got electrics. Yeah.
It's a
Yeah, a little bit brief.
It's a man cave, isn't it?
The man cave or office or something, but
Whereas there's office, gym or art.
but I'm just concerned it's too close to the boundary with the other house. That's all. Apart from that, I'm happy, but I just think the location. That's my own view.
Any other comments?
That's very
Councillor
good.
Lord?
First of all, it's north facing, so there've been all shading with regards to the property
Yeah.
below it, and it's the minimum, I think, 1.2 metres from the boundary, so it complies with building regs. So, I was 1 metre, so I was one, it used to be 4 foot when I was there, but still, I can't fault it really. It's a man cave. I mean, people build this, they can submit an application. So I suggest we support the application. Oh, I'm a second, first of all, I can't remember. My second,
I
I
haven't
propose.
spoken on
Oh,
that.
sorry.
So you can
So
propose.
Councillor Lord, are you
Oh,
proposing
sorry.
that we support this application? Yeah, okay. Any other comments? Councillor Palmer?
I'll second that because it's just an outbuilding. I can understand what Councillor Richard Tullyman was saying about it is close to the neighbouring, but there is that metre distance, and it, if they were building just a normal shed, then
Yeah,
it'd be fine, so I'll second that.
okay. And can I have a show of hands supporting this application? Those against? Those abstaining? Thank you. LW/24/0552 4 Sutton Park Road, retrospective change of use from Class A3 to I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that. Yes, so who would like to lead on this one? Councillor Bournemouth?
I don't usually like retrospective applications because usually say they should have known or thought about it before they did it. But this is obviously a takeaway, and there's not really room for a restaurant, and it wants to change it from that restaurant into that, and it's obviously new owners have found that there was that, and just want to try and just dot the I's, cross the T's. So I'm quite happy to support this application.
Okay. Councillor Cameron?
Thank you, Chair. Just a small thought here, it looks just in a time machine because it's gone back to pre-2016. So it's kind of gone full circle. I would support it.
So you second, Councillor
Yes, by
Bournemouth?
all means, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments? I'm glad to show of hands supporting this application. That's unanimous. LW/24/0559 14 Meads Road, single storey rear extension, alterations to existing rear fenestration. Lead on this one. Councillor Honeyman?
I thought this one was okay as well.
Is what it is, yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Okay, so you're
I'm
proposing?
proposing it. Yeah.
I'll second it, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lord. Any other comments? Can I have a show of hands supporting this application? That's unanimous. Planning applications received week commencing Monday the 26th of August. LW/24/0431 Arlington House, 4 Fell Road, for replacement of 2 chimneys. Amended scheme. Would you like to lead on this one? Councillor Bournemouth?
I wasn't here for the 18th of July meeting, and I'm quite pleased that they are actually replacing the chimneys rather than actually removing them. So I'm actually fully supportive and propose we support this new application.
Thank you.
No,
Councillor Lord?
I second that. I've just got to not foot in the bill for this because it's extremely expensive to replace, but yeah, I will support this application wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Any other comments? And can I have a show of hands supporting this application? That's unanimous. LW/24/0484, 57 Hayes Avenue, Blue Hayes Avenue, replacement of existing conservatory with a single-storey extension at the rear. I think this is the one we had before and we didn't have
It's
enough
very technical drawing out, so
information.
it makes it all clear.
Yeah. So,
I support it.
thank you.
Yes.
Any other comments, councillor?
I would say the
Campbell?
extensions are very slightly footprint compared to the conservatory, but it's nothing, it's not significant to tear it down or anything. That's what I mean, it's
You seconded.
a bit more substantial in it, because conservatory
You
comes to an end.
seconded.
Yeah, I am. The conservatory's probably very tired now,
Yeah.
you need to want to look at.
Any other comments? I can have a show of hands of support in this application. That's unanimous.
Yes.
Please have more pictures this time.
This one.
Planning applications received week commencing the 2nd of September. LW/24/0506 and LW/24/0526, 17 Pelham Place, Pelham Road. Application 1 to change the use from bank basement floor to basement floor flat.
Mm.
Do we want to do that one first?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay, councillor Norman.
I propose that we support the change of use.
Absolutely. I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you.
Let's get it sorted out.
Yeah. Any other comments? And can I have a show of
No,
hands?
I've got a comment. I've got documentation was the same in both a lot of the time, so I couldn't see why it was basically, why it's two applications, so it's just an observation. But it's, a lot of documentation was the same for both applications, so it's,
Yeah.
Because you have to have a change of use.
Yeah.
well, for both.
No,
just
one
for the
application's for the
basic.
change of use and one is for then
An application for
the application
property.
for,
So yeah, I understand what you mean now, yeah. So we're doing the change of use one, aren't we?
yeah.
On the back of that, Alan, the back of the property, which goes on to the shore pub, not that I know anything about the shore pub, I may have, it drops down quite a bit
Yeah,
actually.
right, yeah.
There's a massive drop on the back of that property, about 20 odd foot. So it'll suit itself absolutely perfect for what they're proposing to do.
Thank you.
So that's second, yeah.
Okay, can I have a show of hands on that one? Yep. And then application 2, convert basement and ground floor into 2 masonettes with external staircase, access and fenestration alterations. Now I've got a bit confused with this one, because the way I look at it, they're going to have to, that's the existing, because the new bay window for the basement is going to be on the pavement side, so they're going to have to excavate to get the window in and the stairs. This is just for the
So
basement.
It's more of a structural issue.
it says window to existing basement bay, so the basement bay is actually there. You just do some alteration to it to make it, basically to shoehorn in a property.
Because that's below street level.
That's it. For those in the back, it's actually, it
I
is like that.
know, yeah,
Have you got
but
the
this is
photo?
the front.
You've got the photo from the
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
design and access statement.
There's a
So
picture
there,
on the side.
The
Yeah.
scaffolding is sat on where they'd have to dig, they've got to dig down. So although the structure underneath is there,
It's there.
Yeah,
because you can see the photo with
Because
the,
that's here.
yeah.
the bay window,
Mm.
but they've got to do a lot of digging down
Well,
to get down that way.
well, to us, that's a structural issue. You need a decent structure in it. As far as we're concerned with planning, future, we've got to make a decision whether we want to go with it or not. The fact it's going to cost an absolute fortune. It's got to be tanked out properly to comply to building regulations to make sure it's not damp and it's watertight. As a plan application, I'd rather see the place occupied than the,
Yeah.
that's my own personal view.
Well, I've got nothing
No.
against the ground floor. My concerns is the basement, because obviously for the living area, they've got to have daylight.
But future, it's got to comply to building regs.
Yeah.
Mm,
So
yeah.
we can if it doesn't comply to building regulations, then it will get thrown out. It's a pure plan application. I know where you're coming from, and I support exactly what you say, but to comply with building regs with the amount of natural daylight and ventilation through a bay window, it's got to comply to building regs. And building regs are quite tight because they won't allow any forced ventilation in a natural living area. They will in a toilet and a bathroom because you need some air change to put out. But in a living room, it has to have a natural ventilation amount of light. So, as a plan application, it's what it is. I agree with you, but then it goes to building control, and if they're not happy, it'll get thrown out. I'm just concerned that if we say no, they'll go to an appeal and we're running circles again. So I should just suggest we actually approve it subject to building control.
I've got Councillor Buchanan first.
Oh, okay, thank you, Chair. I think looking at the drawings and plans, there already is a space and steps down in front of that window, according to the existing basement drawings. And then if you look at the photo, not that one, there's another photo in there that shows inside, from inside, I think.
That's it.
The bay.
I think the idea is that they just knock through that wall and make a window.
Yeah.
That's not our problem, is it?
Yeah, but it's below street level.
It's below street level,
Yeah.
which is, that's what we're saying, is if you look at how much,
That's the existing, and there's a stair down, existing. Oops. And that's the stair, I think. And because that is the, so there's already an access to the
No,
basement.
not at the front.
Yeah, well, according to this there is.
So maybe this isn't.
this is all solid.
Because it's all solid there.
Well, they might have to.
Well, we've not jumping it. That curtilage is where the black is, so they'll be taking that out to allow natural light.
Yeah.
So we put some kind of a handrail around it, again to comply to building control. So that will be excavated out to allow natural light to get in there, which all the properties down there have got facing basements anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's out of keeping what's actually down the road. But I just suggest we accept it, and so I put subject to building control.
I've got Councillor Bourne first and then Councillor Hunter.
Although I'm quite happy to support the majority of this, my concerns is that when they're digging up, is there going to be enough room, because for that stairwell down, in that, if you look at how big a gap that is, to have the necessary safety requirements to get down there, and that bay window as well. So it's my only concern is once they start digging down that actually there isn't, that, yeah, no, but they're not going to know possibly some of that until they've dug down, because,
Well,
so
yes.
I've just got concerns. So although I'm happy to support it, can we mention we do have concerns about
Insufficient information.
the access to the basement and obviously the ventilation and light that is going to actually be coming. But
it's facing southwest. So.
Councillor Hunter.
It's obviously the building was there before the bank, wasn't it, put it that way. So when the bank was built, they obviously made sure that the basement was more and more secure, so they obviously bricked in the whatever window they had there at the time. So now they want to open it up again. I mean, I'm sure that engineers, when they did the conversion, will make sure they, you know, they will open it up in the correct manner. I mean, there's enough skilled people to know what they're sort of hopefully doing to
I
make sure.
just feel it should have been explained better in their presentation.
So they tried to hide it.
It's Councillor Tay.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that this proposed excavation is going to eat away into the pavement area. How much of that is it going to take? And whose concern is that, if that is the case? Is
Councillor
it highways or?
Thank you. I actually don't think it is an excavation, according to these drawings. And it may be covered over,
Yeah.
but there's already a hole in that space. That's what these drawings show. So if you really wanted just to provide that, you know, according to building regs, that would cover.
Just subject to building control, they'll sort it out.
Exactly.
As I say, I think you mentioned it earlier that what the building looked like when it was first built, it probably, you know, it's probably been filled in later years.
Well, furniture, if every property down there has steps going to a basement. Oh, apart from we've got bomb
Apart from you go further down.
Yeah, that's where we've bomb down. Every property it's got exactly the same structures out, the steps going down to an open basement area. So I'm guessing they're all going to be subject to building control, be subject to consent from highways as well, East Sussex Highways. So as a publication, I think we can stick it around to knock it back.
Right. So can I have a proposal? What, did you?
Councillor Lord had proposed to accept it. I
Yeah.
just wanted to add our concerns with the basement access and lights.
Yeah.
Again, that's
Are you
building
happy
control.
to have that added?
Yeah, but if,
Yeah, I said.
but if we specify exactly what our concern is, rather than building control and actually saying what it is,
Well,
so we're supporting it, but we're just concerned
Well,
about
so we're probably
specifically.
we're going to about at least 30 to 40 issues on this regards to damp ingress, and I'm not going on about how they did it.
Yeah.
Provided it complies to current building control regulations, then it's a habitable building.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying to you.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's all been privatised now.
But you're happy
Yes,
with
yes, please do.
Councillor Borman's
Yep, please do.
additions?
Specific.
Okay.
Sorry, just to clarify, am I adding about the not enough information about how it's eating into the pavement space? Am I adding that in as a concern as well?
Well, to be honest, it will
I
be.
definitely need that. That's too
And
much.
it's actually curtilage of the building, so I just suggest we support it subject to building control approval, and that ticks all the boxes. I'm not just saying suggestible.
Well, there are going to be issues, Chair, down below in that basement.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Yeah.
Just is that a sort of an in-between? Can we say subject to building control such as, and just note the...
But building controls are very, very complicated, because you've got to do quite complicated structural calculations. We don't start going into that and ventilation issues. We said subject to building control approval. And believe me, building control is far more complicated than planning, particularly in structural issues like this. It does get very complicated, and particularly going below ground level as well. And like I say, it's to do with dampness, it prevents it, but also definitely drainage provision at the bottom of the stairs as well. So when it rains down there, you can't have a pull the rain. You've actually got to get rid of that, which is another issue, which we don't get involved in the plan issue. It's a building control issue. So, believe me, building control, they're quite saucy and they've got a lot of power, but they don't throw the weight around.
Are you happy with that? Yes? Is everybody
So,
clear?
coming back, I'm not desperately keen on the external staircase, because I was, but we know it's a fire issue, because it's over a certain height, but I think, well, that's, when you start adding those, it starts looking a bit...
Well, I think,
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, part of another regulation, isn't it?
Well, it's all part of building control.
Yeah,
that's
it's all
fine.
part of it, but you have to have it, because it's
Well,
over
Well,
too
it's just
high.
called Grenville Tower, but still.
I think that's the access stairs, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's like it's a staircase, but everyone's
Yeah.
gone down there,
Yeah.
down the road, so
Yeah. Okay, right. Can I have
after all that.
can I have a show of hands that we're supporting this application subject to the basement building?
Building
regs?
control regulations.
Okay. Those against? Those abstaining? Thank you. One. Alright. Where are we? LW stroke 24 stroke 0507 14 Pitt Drive, rear conservatory enlargement. Who'd like to lead on this one?
It's a big conservatory.
Councillor Borman?
Yeah, it is rather large, and suddenly they haven't got much of a garden. Because obviously you've got a big outbuilding in there, and they're losing so much more of the garden. But
If the outbuilding was there, would be no, it'd be a straightforward yes, wouldn't it?
it would be, yeah. And are they thinking of taking that down because they've got more space or not? I don't know. So, but I think it is very large for.
Is it 4.8 or 4 count?
4.8,
4.8.
4.5.
Oh. That's 20 foot really, by about
Yeah, but it's
80
all,
foot.
the chair already is a certain length, it's not going much more than what you can.
No, it's
So-
Actually forward with it.
So I'd support it.
Yeah.
I can't see us not supporting that.
Does
Else-
that find a seconder?
I'll second that.
Yeah.
I also think it could for young children as well, can't it? Stick them in there out of the way, keep them quiet.
Any other comments? So can I have a show of hands of supporting this application? Thank you. LW stroke 24 stroke 0527 77 Sutton Road, 2-storey side extension, single storey front and rear extension with fenestration alterations. And that lead on this one.
I thought it was okay to do. Obviously the property is quite large already, and this was one of the properties that was potentially going to get knocked down when they were going to do the, I can't remember what it was called, was it Churchill?
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't Churchill, was it? It was the,
It wasn't the potent. No, it was.
it wasn't, it was,
No,
it was
it's
one
further down the road.
Not far enough.
Alright, I knew it's near
Near them, yeah.
near them. So yeah, I was quite happy, I thought this was fine to support.
Thank you.
Because it won't be upkeeping with whatever else is over there.
Is that finally seconder? Councillor Baldwin?
Yeah, I'll second that. They're large properties down that along that area. They've got large gardens, and it's kind of infilling some of the areas that they've already got. So quite happy to second that.
Any other comments? Councillor Buchanan?
Thank you, Chair. I think one of these elevations that they're extending on is north facing. So is north facing,
Facing.
Yeah.
which may be where we can put in our swift sentence.
Oh, right, yes.
And I don't know whether backtracking that may work on number one that we looked at.
Yeah. Yes, they're happy to that to be added.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can I have a show of hands of supporting this application? That's unanimous. Thank you. LW stroke 24 stroke 0580 46 Kingston Way, loft conversion with installation of Velux roof windows to the rear roof shed. Let's lead on this one. Quite straightforward, I think.
Yes.
Councillor Buchanan?
Thank you. But just a quick one. There was a little letter that attached to the submission. These roads fall within permitted development criteria.
Yeah.
Therefore, planning permission is not required. I'm assuming that's the correct statement.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So can I have a proposal and a seconder? Buchanan, and seconded by Councillor Lord.
Yes.
Show of hands to support the application.
As a town, the reason they got planning in case they want to sell the place.
Ah,
Because the towns might, in 10 years, it might change. If you got planning, it doesn't matter, you've got it.
you make a good point.
Oh, I see what you mean. If you don't,
If you don't get to, why we're not planning for it? Well, we didn't need 10 years.
Can we
we
move on, please? Planning applications, Monday the 9th of September, tree works, TW stroke 24 stroke 0068 stroke TPO 32 Barn Close. Over to you.
Yeah, I went down and looked at this actually. It's a big old tree, and to be honest, it should never have been planted in the first place, but, you know, 50 years on, we're all clever, aren't we? I think it can easily support crowd reduction by about 6 foot and branches by about 10 foot. It'll do the tree good actually and allow a little more natural light into the barn close area. I wouldn't be surprised if we get 1 or 2 applications around because all the trees in that area now come into the time where they need pollinating. So I support the application.
We've certainly had quite a few over the last few
Yeah.
months, yeah. I would assume it's that middle one, is it?
Yeah, it's a big one
Yeah.
about, yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly we're going to stuff out, that's worrying me, but it's not my problem.
Yeah. So you're proposing that we
I
support
do,
it?
sure.
Councillor Bournemouth?
I'll second that.
Can I have a show of hands, please? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 6, page 26, road closure application. It's unusual that we haven't had this sooner, because usually we have some comments, but I do think got forgotten.
Right, so-
Not by,
No, no,
not
no,
by
so I was just going to
easy.
explain, all I got was a notification saying here's the order attached, so I didn't get any prior application or anything to bring to this committee, so I don't know whether you want me to question that. I'm more than happy to. I don't know whether it
I
was,
think so, because I've picked up that on that bit, the road closure is from 6 AM. And referring to the maps, you know, it looks like it's the whole town from 6 AM to 11:30 at night.
Maps have a different time.
And normally they close the road at the White Lion, and yes, there's a rolling road closure at 6 o'clock for the start of the procession. So, as we've never seen this bit before, because it's, you know, it's been signed off, I just feel,
Yeah.
and
It
then the
contradicts what's
committee
on,
that it should be,
Yeah, it does.
it contradicts what's on the,
yeah.
Map.
Can I come
Councillor
back?
Hanlon.
Chair, yeah, I mean, have you seen one of these before?
No,
Right, so you want to see what happened over the years, because it might be standard practice, they do it from 6 to midnight, and then you can put flexibility within, so if something changes and you haven't got to go back, you know, something might happen with the Bonfire Society, it might want to start half an hour earlier or half an hour later, you see what I mean?
with the information we've got,
I know.
it looks like the buses will stop coming through Seaford at 6 o'clock in the morning and won't restart till, well, basically till the next day. So I think that needs to be clarified.
Yeah, I've just realised as well, obviously the date is a lot earlier, so
Yeah.
maybe this is a reason why, because I'm just thinking it's a week earlier, so maybe
Yes, it is.
they got it and had to process it quicker than they expected or something. I'm just trying to think
Yeah.
of why.
Councillor Ballman.
Thank you. Can we just clarify with Lewis District
Yeah.
that actually we should be getting the road closures when
Yeah.
they've been applied for, so we can discuss them rather than
Retrospectively, yeah.
just having
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this?
that's fine, I'll do that.
So can I have a proposer and seconder that those comments go back to Lewis District Council?
Can I just also add that, I know we've had it like this, but it's really difficult to see the lines, I know because it's black and white.
Yeah.
Oh, was it printed, sorry?
You can just about see the lines on
Yeah.
one bit, you can't really see the lines on any other.
Okay.
Yeah, look.
Oh, sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
realise.
Saving ink.
Yeah, it was an ink thing.
scurry my cat to death.
Mm.
Just shaving yourselves like phones on.
Right, so can I have a proposer? Thank you, Councillor Hudman. Seconder, Councillor Borman, and can I have show of hands, please? Thank you. Those guys? So abstaining? Thank you.
Goes across my house and it scares my little darling cat to death. I spent 2 hours under the table with myself. Oh, come on, son, be alright.
Agenda item 7, update report.
Yep.
There's any questions? Do you want to make any comments
I
on
haven't,
this?
obviously just to draw attention to the 2 appeals that are currently there.
Yeah.
But other than that.
No. Councillor Borman?
Yeah, I was just a little bit disappointed that we can let the fieldings is based on the written representations that have already been submitted, rather than us being able to extend our submissions, especially after Councillor Law's comments from the last meeting,
Yeah.
for why we wanted it refused. We could have added that and bulked
Yeah.
up
Yeah, I
our
know
thing.
that.
So
I know
it's a shame we can't do that this time.
Because what's happened now is that this one was the previous one that's been appealed, and then we commented on the new application that was put in, didn't we? So I will keep an eye on it, because I don't know whether that might change at any point as the appeal goes on. But both of them have said the same thing in the letter that I received, saying that we can't submit anything further. All we can do is withdraw.
Yeah.
So
It'd be interesting to see about £80 out that one. And so it actually falls one way or the other, you know, I'm interested to see it comes out. So I met the guy a couple of times, he's a decent guy, like, you know.
Okay, any other questions? So you're asked to note the report, noted? Your hands noted? Lovely, thank you. And that concludes the meeting at
Thank you, Chair.
26 minutes past 8. Thank you.